Victoria Police's decision to use Nicola Gobbo as an informant against her gangland clients rocked the justice system, exposed police misconduct and possibly affected more than 1,000 criminal convictions. But despite a Royal Commission, convictions being overturned and appealed, the fallout costing taxpayers what's estimated to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars, it appears no one is being held to account.
The Lawyer X incident strikes at the heart of justice, it strikes at the heart of our judicial system, and it speaks about the role of prosecutors, defenders and the police. This should be aired.
Tonight there are calls for transparency around the decision by Victoria's Director of Public Prosecutions, Kerry Judd, not to press charges against police and others, as recommended by the Office of Special Investigator. Rhiana Whitson is the Director of the Centre for Public Integrity.
When you're talking about any independent decision-making in the area of the justice system, you've got to avoid conflicts of interest like the plague. You've got to avoid them. And they arise in subtle ways. A connection of a personal kind as making a decision in respect of a previous client is an obvious area where a conflict does arise. Not could arise, does arise.
In 2018, Kerry Judd became the first woman appointed DPP in Victoria. A press release at the time highlighted her extensive work in criminal trials and advising and acting on behalf of Victoria Police in various matters. One of those matters involved a senior police officer who would become a central figure in the Lawyer X scandal.
After a lengthy inquest, the police officers who killed 15-year-old Tyler Cassidy have been cleared of using excessive force.
In 2008, 15-year-old Tyler Cassidy was killed after being shot by Victoria police officers. His death was the subject of a coronial inquest in 2010. The Victoria Police Commissioner was Simon Overland, and at the inquest, he was being represented by barrister Kerry Judd.
We know that Ms Judd appeared for Mr Overland for about a year in that inquest, from the opening in October till the end of November in the next year. So the question is there a conflict of interest now with her dealing with things going forward?
At the Royal Commission into Police Informants, Simon Overland admitted he'd known about Nicola Gobbo's informing since 2005. In her findings, Commissioner Margaret McMurdo found the most likely reason that he did not obtain legal advice was that he feared it would limit the information he hoped to obtain from Ms Gobbo to help solve the gangland wars. Former High Court Judge Geoffrey Nettle was appointed following the Royal Commission into the scandal to head up the Office of Special Investigator to probe criminal charges against police and others. But after 18 months, his 2 briefs of evidence recommending charges were rejected by the Office of Public Prosecutions. Ms Judd declined 730's request for an interview. In a statement, she told us, "The OSI has not named the individuals publicly, and the Director of Public Prosecutions maintains that confidentiality. The Director of Public Prosecutions had no conflict of interest in relation to the 2 briefs submitted for consideration." There was another investigation being pursued by the OSI before the office was disbanded in June. It was dealing with the potential charge of misconduct in public office against senior police.
The problem is that we don't know at the moment whether Mr Overland was the subject of one of the references to the DPP. If he was, it's a conflict of interest. If he wasn't, then somebody should come out and tell us that he wasn't.
I think the lack of transparency throws up all these questions and they need to be answered.
Less than a month before the OSI was disbanded, Ms Judd explained her concerns regarding the success of the recommended prosecutions. "I do not know the identities of those police officers, the particulars of the alleged offence, or the extent of the evidence you have gathered to date. In my experience and the experience of the Office of Public Prosecutions, misconduct in public office is a difficult offence to prove beyond reasonable doubt."
It would have been very, very obvious to anybody that Mr Overland could have been amongst the persons identified as subject to a referral. Now, just assuming for the moment the DPP did not know that one way or the other, there was still enough information there so that the DPP should have asked that question and thereby identified the potential conflict of interest, so something could have been done about it.
7:30 asked Kerry Judd twice if she ever disclosed that there could be a conflict of interest in relation to Simon Overland and the OSI. The DPP responded, "We have no further comment to make in relation to your query."
It's not good enough to say, I did not know the exact names, because Blind Freddie could have seen that Mr Overland could be one of those people who would be identified by Mr Nettle.
In a letter to Ms Judd on May 29, Mr Nettle expressed his frustration. The likelihood of you ever approving any charges that OSI may submit is effectively nil. The Premier backed the performance of the DPP.
Please don't infer that she and a panel of other experts have got this wrong and that somehow she's not up to the job. I really don't think that's fair.
7:30 asked the Victorian Attorney-General Jacqueline Symes if the government had considered sending the OSI's investigations to interstate legal experts. Ms Symes said the government has full confidence in the DPP and the OPP's capacity as an independent prosecutorial body. 7:30 asked former Police Commissioner Simon Overland if he would confirm he was investigated by the OSI. A spokesperson told us he is not taking media inquiries about Lawyer X. Jeffrey Watson says the OSI's investigations should be reviewed by legal minds outside of Victoria.
The brief of evidence from Mr Nettle should be passed as it stands to an independent DPP from another state or territory, where a decision can be arrived at with all of that distance from the subject matter, with all of the independence that that would bring. It's a simple solution.
If you bring someone in from outside, they will have no knowledge of anybody involved. So you do get that fresh look on it, and that there can't be any suggestion of ostensible conflict of interest, because the person or persons you're bringing in have no professional relationship with any of the people involved, or should have none.